Did you ever hear of JK Rowling? I bet you have. Well, if you haven't heard of her, you've certainly heard of the books that she's written. Ever hear of Harry Potter? You bet. You know where Harry Potter came from? JK Rowling was a 38-year-old unemployed single mother on welfare. She'd never written anything before in her life. And at the age of 38, having lost her husband, lost her job, and on the verge of losing her home, she decided to write a book that she'd carried around the idea for in her head for many years. Now, what made it possible, and of course what made Harry Potter possible, that in order to write a book, all you need is really an idea and a pencil and a piece of paper. And in fact, she began writing the book on the back of cocktail napkins in a small pub next to her house in England. That's where books come from. That's why we get great novels, not because people are professional scribes who study how to write in the shape of letters and cursive wording. Great books come from people who have ideas and simply know how to write because pencils and paper are easy to get their hands on and people know what to do with it. That's what they teach in school. If we ran the world of writing the way we run the world of television today, JK Rowling might wake up at the age of 38 and say, you know what, I feel like writing a book. And if she were lucky, she might have a friend who had a job and knew somebody who was the head of human resources at Random House, a publishing house, for example. And so they might go, JK, don't worry. I know just the person to talk to. My friend is the head of HR at Random House, and I'm going to get you a meeting. Well, you know, so one thing leads to another. And JK Rowling gets the meeting with the head of HR, and she's very nervous, and she dresses very nicely for the meeting, and she goes in, and the head of HR turns to JK and says, you know, JK, I don't know how to tell you this, but I was very happy to give you the meeting, but I've looked at your resume here, and you're just not the kind of person that we hire here at Random House to write books. And JK says, what are you talking about? And the head of HR says, well, look at your resume here. You're 38 years old, you're a single mother, you're unemployed, you're on welfare, you never wrote anything before in your life, and now you tell me you want to be an author. I mean, that's just crazy. And JK gets very upset, and she's very tense, and she starts to cry a little bit. She says, please, I have this great idea for a book. It's a Harry Slaughter. It's in my head. I know it's got a thing on his head. And the head of human resources goes, yeah. You know, everybody's got great ideas. And JK goes, please, Mrs. Head of Human Resources, please, I don't know what to do. You got to help me. So the head of human resources, for some reason, feels touched and says, look, JK, we don't normally do this kind of thing here, but for you, I'm going to make an exception, okay? I'm going to get you a job here at Random House. And JK goes, that's just great. I'm so happy. And the head of human resources goes, I'm going to get you a job here as a receptionist. And JK goes, what do you mean? And the head of human resources goes, well, you're going to come in every day, you're going to answer the phone, you're going to Xerox things, you're going to make coffee, and if you're really good and you work really hard, in a couple of years you could become an assistant writer. And JK goes, well, what's that? And the head of human resources says, well, as an assistant writer, you'll help with other writers, you'll do research, you'll check out the books, you'll proofread things, and if you're really good with that, in a couple of years after that, you become an associate writer. And JK goes, well, what does that do? And the head of human resources says, well, then, you know, you actually get to, maybe you get to write the blurb on the back of the book, and maybe the inside jacket, and you know, you're going to work your way through it. And JK goes, well, when do I get to be a writer? And the head of human resources says, well, if you're really good as an associate writer, after a couple of more years, if you work really hard, we'll let you be a writer here at Random House. And JK goes, great, does that mean I get to finally write Harry Slaughter? And the head of human resources goes, no, it means you get to work with some of our really big name writers like Katie Couric and Matt Lauer, because their books really sell, you know? And you'll write exactly what the sales department has done audience research and decides exactly what the audience is looking for, and that's what you'll be writing. And JK goes, well, when do I get to write Harry Slaughter? And the head of human resources says, look, you're never going to get to write Harry Slaughter. Nobody wants it. This is not how the business works. Grow up. This is a business, okay? Writing books and publishing books is very expensive. You have delusions of creativity, but that's not how writing works. Well, in fact, that is how writing works, but it's not how television works. Because television was so expensive, because the cameras were so difficult to use, because it was so much money on the table to even make a pilot for a TV show, people got crushed in the business. People were attracted to the television business because it was supposed to be a creative business, but it wasn't. It was a business that was basically a lockstep system because it was so expensive, because there was so much risk. Well, today, video cameras don't cost much more than a pencil, and they aren't that much more difficult to use. So there's an opportunity here to reinvent, or I think invent for the first time, what television really and video online could be. Not what it is now, but what it could be, because what it is now is pretty terrible. But what it could be when millions of people pick up video cameras and edits and start to work with them just like you're doing, someone out there, maybe even you, is the next the next JK Rowling. Maybe you have Harry Potter in your head. Don't wait for permission. Learn what I'm teaching you how to do here and then go make it. Make what you have a passion for. Make what's in your head. And if it works, we're going to have something really great. Something really great. Something that's never been done before. But you have to get started.